This is Conversations and Connections, the official podcast of the Family Crisis Center of East Texas. Stuart Burson with you. Before we begin with today's show, I do want to go over a couple of things. I want to remind you, in October, it's our annual Passion for Purple luncheon. We almost have our guest speaker finalized, I do believe. We can't make the announcement yet. As soon as we know who our guest speaker is, or we finalize everything, I should say, I'm sure we will have a big media announcement on that. In years past, a couple of years ago, we had Lorena Bobbitt was our guest speaker. And then last year, we had the parents of Gabby Petito as our speakers. And if you're not familiar with either Lorena Bobbitt or Gabby Petito, look them up. Do a Google search, find out more about them. And hopefully this year, we will have just as an impressive speaker for you this October. One of the things I also want to mention is an idea I have for a future episode of the podcast. I want to take a look at song lyrics. I want to take a look at some songs that are popular, and it can be songs that are popular today. It can be songs that were hits years ago. But I want to take a look at song lyrics and examine the ones that depict unhealthy relationships or unhealthy attitudes towards women. Maybe maybe these are some songs that portray toxic masculinity, objectification of women, maybe unconsensual sex, things like that. I want to take a look at some of these songs and really dissect and see what kind of messages are being given to us. And, you know, I guess I really want to say given to young people, but I think us adults are just as susceptible to the influence of some of these songs. So I'm going to kind of work on that. I've already asked some coworkers about songs they believe may fit the bill for this. And I want to propose this question to our listeners as well. If there's a song you think that we can take a look at, that we can look at the lyrics to, let us know what it is. Email us at conversations@fccet.com and let us know what songs you believe we may want to look at. Again, songs that depict unhealthy attitudes towards relationships, unhealthy attitudes towards women. Let me know what you think. I think that could be a very interesting discussion that we could have on the podcast. My guest today is Kim Bartel, the Regional Alliance Coordinator with the Prevention Resource Center at ADAC, the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Council. Excuse me. And I knew I was going to make this mistake, the Alcohol and Drug Awareness Council, I should say. Apologize for that. Kim and I, we have known each other for a number of years. We kind of go back even to before where I was working, when I was working at Burke, before I came on board here at the Family Crisis Center. So I'm going to talk to Kim particularly about alcohol and drug usage in East Texas. What do the surveys and stats say? This should be a very interesting conversation. Here he is, Kim Bartel. Well, Kim, I think, is this the first time you've been on the podcast?
It is.
Okay. And I always liked talking to you and seeing you because we kind of have a history. We go back
several years.
A ways before my time here at the Family Crisis Center. And I guess I started seeing you a lot years ago when we would attend the different county interagency meetings.
Yes.
I guess. Were you with ADAC then? I can't remember.
I was. I've been with ADAC, I think it's 12 years now.
Okay.
And, yeah, we had gone to so many meetings. You remember,
right.
I would start introducing myself as you and you as me.
Right. But, yeah, so we kind of go back as far as going to different meetings and seeing each other in the same circles. And of course, I think anytime you're in the nonprofit world, you start seeing the same folks at these different meetings and gatherings and things like that. So, I kind of want to talk a little bit about your job. So with ADAC, you are the Regional Alliance Coordinator.
Correct.
Is that correct? So your job, if I'm correct, it has a lot to do with stats and numbers and figures. These reports that you are always talking about. What exactly does your job entail at ADAC? I talked to so many people. Megan Griffin was here a while back talking about the Padres program. And I think y'all are kind of like us. People think of ADAC. Okay, well, these are, ADAC is for, people to help them kick their habits, to rehabilitate and things like that. But as with us, you guys do a whole lot more.
Yeah.
And so what does your job exactly entail?
Well, I'm part of what's called the Prevention Resource Center of the Alcohol Drug Awareness Council.
Okay.
And you said stats. It started off as stats data and collecting and disseminating that. It's kind of evolved. Now it's more – our focus is education and awareness. And we accomplish that. Well, we have three positions. My position, the Regional Alliance Coordinator, I connect with the community. I hold meetings together with the community trying to make sure that all nonprofits and organizations and agencies are working together to achieve common goals. We also have a media person who does traditional media. Social media is now the big platform now. And so we raise awareness to the community through that. And then we have a tobacco compliance coordinator that visits every tobacco retailer within our region and helps to educate them not to sell tobacco to minors. And, of course, our region covers from Shelby County, Nacogdoches, all the way down to Beaumont and Orange. We've got 15 counties we cover. So we still do the data. I still collect that and still disseminate it out. But we've turned more towards raising awareness and education in that area.
Oh, okay. And I'm going to get you to do me a favor. Move that mic just a little bit closer to – there you go. Awesome. So there's so many things I was thinking about talking to you about and asking you about. Not too long ago, you guys presented, I guess, what was called kind of a town hall with some data and some reports. There was a lot going on, but can you kind of summarize that to a certain extent about what did you present to us at that meeting?
Well, that was a focus on underage drinking and its availability. Now, we realize there's all kinds of issues with alcohol, but our focus, we wanted to bring more towards the underage drinking, towards the youth, because if we can prevent them from using early, then that'll sure help later on down the road with all of our clinical work.
Sure.
And so what we took a look at is how stores are displaying, how the alcohol industry promotes their product. They're putting alcohol products not in the alcohol aisle, but out next to the sandwiches. And it's in colorful packaging, these big round balls of pink and purple and blue bottles of alcohol. You're not going to see your traditional alcoholic grabbing that. That's for kids. And so they target the underage drinkers, and there's a reason for this. This is because if they can get them to use the substance at an early point in their life, before their brain fully develops, then they're going to have a customer for life. Because that when you introduce the substance at such a young age, their brain's still developing, and that substance becomes rewired or wired into their brain, and that's a permanent rewiring, so that their brain's always going to be programmed towards substance use or towards finding that as a coping mechanism they use in life.
Well, it's interesting that you talk about that, about some of these alcohol products being not necessarily in the alcohol section. And a lot of them now, you got to kind of take a second look because they almost look like it's an energy drink or it's a soda or something like that. And you kind of have to really look at the,
would you say
the can.
Deceptive practices?
Yeah, probably so. Probably so. And I'm to the layperson or to a parent, to an adult, if they look at that, they probably wouldn't even take a second look at it because they would think it was
just an energy drink.
Yeah, right. And what's kind of interesting also is that correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in some instances they're combining the energy drinks and they're infused with alcohol.
Exactly.
It's like, what in the heck does that do to a person? Because it seems like one is bringing you up, the other one is bringing you down, and they're together.
Yeah. It messes folks up.
Yeah.
But alcohol by itself, it's biphasic. You get high, then you get low, so to speak. And so it's that initial hit with the energy drink, you get high, and then they have the alcohol at the end to kind of help you get low on it.
Right. You were talking about substances, and I'm sure we'll kind of go back and forth, but I kind of want to talk to you a little bit about vaping. The role that vaping now plays on our youth culture today. I remember, I don't know how many years ago it was, when vaping first was introduced. It wasn't vaping, it was e-cigarettes. And they were really marketing those then as a safer alternative to smoking a cigarette. And I remember, I'm sure these didn't last long, but I swear I remember a TV commercial for these devices. It's like, hey, you can use these anywhere. It's safe. It's water vapor. And looking at that now compared to people's perception of it today has changed quite a bit. But at the same time, these vapes have just skyrocketed in popularity.
Oh, absolutely. You remember the Juul?
Yes.
That was kind of like the first big marketing campaign on it. And it was campaigned as a way to quit smoking.
Yeah. And these looked like cigarettes. They looked like, they were about as thin as a pen or a pencil. They looked like cigarettes. Of course, now they look like probably anything you want.
Yeah. But that was the whole purpose. But, they said you use this and you can quit smoking. Well, sure, you quit smoking cigarettes, but now you're using this. And the problem was the vapes or the e-cigs, they had more nicotine than the cigarette did.
Yeah.
And so we had the folks were just getting addicted to the vapes and just stopped using the regular combustible cigarettes. And we see that in the statistics. The combustible cigarette use is down, lowest it's been in several years, forever. And vape use, skyrocketing.
Yeah. Yeah. And nowadays, oh my gosh, I think you could probably skydive into the middle of East Texas and throw a rock and hit a vape shop anywhere. I mean, they're popping up everywhere. And of course, they're at the gas stations. And now when I go fill up my car, if it's the gas pump that has the TV screens on them, I see ads for the Juuls or the whatever they want to.
We did a comparison. You go anywhere, there's a dollar store somewhere in town, or somewhere in the country, even towns that don't have gas stations, they have a Dollar General. And we did a comparison and found out that there are 4.5 vape stores for every dollar store.
Wow.
And some towns that don't have a dollar store will have a vape store. So it's big business. It brings in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you've also brought to the attention that a lot of these vapes now, the devices, are even made to appeal to young people.
Absolutely. And then they have the charged vapes, the big ones you see that put out a lot of smoke.
Yeah.
And, they have the ones you feel with juice, flavors,
Right.
that still contains nicotine. And the problem we're starting to see is they're putting marijuana into those devices as well. And it's in such high concentrations that kids are starting to have adverse reactions to them.
Really? How much of this, again, I guess there's vaping, and then there's also, you can go to some of the vape shops that have, so they also now have vapes or the cartridges, I guess, that contain, it's not just nicotine, it's THC, right? What can you tell me about that?
Well, the way it's kind of divided up, and it was done intentionally to confuse all of us. There's THC, there's hemp, and then there's CBD. And then you have all the deltas. Delta 8 through...
And I've tried to read up on that stuff, and it just, I get lost.
Yeah, and that's intentional, that we don't,
Yeah.
you don't care about it kind of thing. But, all the deltas contain THC. Hemp contains THC. CBD even contains THC. And the THC is the psychoactive ingredient in it. But it's just, for legal purposes, it's the percentage that's in there below 0.3%. It's legal, but straight THC's not legal.
Yeah.
So that makes it kind of confusing. And, I've always said you give a teenager an item and give them 30 minutes and they'll figure out how to abuse it some way.
Yeah.
And so they take the CBDs and the hemp and they process it to get the THC out of it and start maximizing and increasing that. So it all kind of gets confusing. And we talked earlier about some of the legislation. It's not settled in Austin.
Yeah.
They kind of held back on some things and allowed some other things to come to light, and allowed some other things. But the problem is we don't have any way to regulate it. And plus testing and enforcement, that's not in place. And so you can go to a vape store, and there are some that are selling straight THC. They'll bring it in from out of state. And
that's legal?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
But like I'm saying, there's no enforcement or little enforcement to do that. And since we're talking about that, let me add to this. I was just reading the other day that in Colorado, a year after they legalized marijuana, they started to work to make it illegal again because they began to see the problems with it right away, all the adverse effects that are taking place. And so in Oregon as well, they're trying to reverse the legalization of it because they're having such adverse effects to it. Because these houses, they all start growing marijuana, now they all become drug houses and cartels moving in, crime's increasing, mental health is drastically increasing, mental health problems, I should say, because of the THC use.
And I think a lot of times people don't think about the crime side of it. They think, well, Big Brother, whatever, wants to keep me from enjoying my high or buzz or whatever. But I think a lot of people really don't think about the criminal side of it, I guess, and what all that involves.
Yeah. I was we had gone to SFA for a presentation for their nursing school. And we did some research on the marijuana use. And so we read our study. They had 460,000 teenagers in this study. They studied for 15 years. So this is a pretty elaborate study. And what they found, that teens who used marijuana were significantly higher at risk for mental health problems. Matter of fact, 2 times more likely to be bipolar and schizophrenic. And that causes, across the society, extreme adverse effects because that's costing us nearly $350 billion a year to deal with that. And we see a lot of the problem is that they start as teenagers thinking, oh, this is natural, this is safe, everybody's doing it. But the marijuana today is not the marijuana your parents might have used in the 60s, because back then THC levels were about 8 to 10, maybe 12%. We're seeing it as high as 45%, which is pretty intense. And if they take it and vape it and they process it and put it more pure, they'll get it up to 90%. And that's pretty toxic.
Yeah, yeah. And I hear the argument a lot that, well, THC is not a dangerous drug. It's not. You can't OD on THC. You
can. We see that now. And you can ask hospitals around anywhere. They're seeing more and more of that coming in to where they've developed this dependency on it. Their mind's programmed towards it. Yeah. And their body has severe adverse reactions when it's not present.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I guess it's safe to say dangers of vaping compared to tobacco, they're pretty much on the same level.
Yeah.
I guess.
And nicotine's the most addictive substance we have out there. And once you get started on it, it's like, how do you get off?
Right. And I guess I'm fortunate. In September, I'm going to be 60. I think I've tried a cigarette a couple of times when I was in college, maybe, or things like that. So I think I'm very fortunate that I grew up with both parents smoking. Both of them quit though, but by the time I got to be in my teens, but I've never got into that addiction of nicotine or anything like that, thankfully.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that. Like coffee. You drink coffee every morning?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, quit.
Yeah. No. I see the point.
That's what happens is you become that's a place for your mind to go to, to relax, to find ease from pain, so to speak, and that's where you find comfort. Because our brains are programmed to safety, and so especially as a young person, when you start introducing that substance in there, and how that is now going to be your coping mechanism to deal with stress, to deal with pain. And so it's what you always go back to.
And so I'm going to, in turn, say funny. You mentioned coffee. About a week ago, a tragedy struck my household when my Keurig died.
Oh, no.
And it was so funny. I had to take a step back and think, why am I so upset? And I think, the coffee is almost, and I may be addicted to the caffeine. I really don't think caffeine really affects me because I can drink a cup of coffee at night and I can still sleep like a baby. But I think it's just that comforting thing. I have my, 2 cups of coffee in the morning. I'll usually have a couple in the evenings, after everything settles down. And I think that's what I was missing. And it's the same thing as being addicted to the caffeine. I think it's just that ritual, that the comfort feeling, I guess, of having your coffee. And man, I was on my phone with Amazon trying to I'm going to buy another one. But I did, honestly, and I was telling a friend about this, I really had to kind of take a step back. I'm like, this is not like something else that's more important. My phone died or whatever, this is.
Did you get next day delivery?
I did not. I did not. But I have my new one now. Yeah. I've had it for about a week, but it just kind of goes, I don't have, I don't smoke, but my vices are, I guess, I do have my coffee.
Yeah.
And things like
that. And you mentioned that. I never drink coffee. That was not my thing. And when my daughter moved back in with us, she was a coffee drinker, and so she introduced me to coffee. I started drinking coffee at about the age 55. And so as long as she was around, I drank coffee with her.
Yeah.
When she moved off, I was like, I'm done. And I had no problem.
Well, and I don't think I really became a big coffee drinker until I mean, I would drink coffee socially every now and then, if somebody offered me a cup if I was somewhere or whatever. But probably within the past 5 years, I guess, it's just part of that thing. That's my morning thing and my nightly thing. I got to have my little cup of coffee.
You have a coffee mug with a handle?
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
of course. Yes.
Kind of that guy thing.
So I don't know if anything else can be really said about the vape shops. Like I said, those things are popping up everywhere. Are those regulated in any way? Like where they can be or where they cannot be or anything like that?
They are now.
Okay.
And it's just been within the last few years that they brought in.
Yeah.
So like our tobacco compliance coordinator, originally their job was to check the compliances for combustible cigarettes. Mm-hmm. Now they've added the vapes to it. You have to have a license to purchase the vapes and sell the vapes. And so, yeah, they're starting to regulate that. But, they still get overseas shipments of vapes, so we're not sure what's really in the vapes because they're coming from China, that kind of stuff. And we've had retailers say, it says it's safe on the box, so, but...
Yeah, well, and that's something else that I think everybody needs to really be careful about. And I'm not trying to condone, hey, get your vape, what do you call it? Don't know why vape juice to me just sounds gross to say that name. But the cartridges or whatever, you can get those like at the gas station. Guys, just be careful where that stuff is coming from because you just don't know.
This is so true.
The source, the origin.
And it's like a lot of the other drugs that flow around, methamphetamine, marijuana, other drugs, how they are contaminated with fentanyl. The cartel uses fentanyl to ensure the addiction because it really drives it home for the addict that this is something I need to keep using. And so we have a statistic from the DEA that of medications that you order online, 8 out of 10 are counterfeit. So when you place it, and it's not from a licensed pharmacy.
Right. So it's not like
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that get drugs and medication online. And so 8 out of 10 are counterfeit. And then what they found is 6 out of 10 of those contain lethal doses of fentanyl. So it's a risk. It's
right.
And, the DEA has that campaign, one pill can kill, and that's true.
Yeah.
That you don't know what's in it. And the vape juice is the same thing because they come in just little plastic bottles. They don't even put labels on them except this is the flavor.
Yeah.
And you don't know who's manufacturing it or not.
Well, and I know a lot of people, because of drug prices, a lot of people get their prescriptions from Mexico.
Yep.
And
that's
I just think
probably not the best place to get it.
I personally think you're rolling the dice on that. Well, so you mentioned fentanyl, and one thing I was wanting to ask you is, in the surveys that you guys give out, or wherever you glean your information from, what is we talked about vaping, but what is the drug of choice, or what's the most?
Methamphetamine.
So meth is still the big thing amongst youth, or just amongst East Texas. That's still
well, and it's East Texas is pretty high, and for all of Texas now, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Louisiana, their rates are much higher than ours, but we still have a high rate. And one of the problems with the East Texas part of that is that per capita, East Texas has the highest overdose rate for all of Texas.
Okay.
And that's rather frightening. And that's from all drug use. And so that's kind of a struggle that we want to be sure to highlight and battle against that.
Yeah.
Because the overdose rates, it's been that way for the last 3 or 4 years for East Texas.
Right. So does it differ between adults and teens as far as like drug use? Like what's the most popular thing that they're taking?
For adults, it's methamphetamine.
Yeah.
For teens, it's going to be, according to the Texas School Survey, alcohol, marijuana, and tobacco.
Okay.
Those are the highest. And the problem is East Texas has the highest use rate among teens for alcohol, tobacco, and vaping, and marijuana too. So, that's rather alarming for us.
Yeah.
And so that's why we put a lot of effort into the prevention and education part of it.
Right. When you talk about fentanyl, is that taken intentionally, or is that, like you said earlier, is a lot of that, or is the majority of it consumed because it's being snuck into something else?
Unknowingly.
Okay.
Yeah. I was talking with a treatment center out of Beaumont. They test everybody that's coming in. And 95% of the people that are tested test positive for fentanyl. And they're all saying, I'm not taking fentanyl. I can't test positive for it. But yet it's in their substance they're using.
And the scary thing about it is that it's so potent. It doesn't take but just a tiny bit to mess you up.
Absolutely. 2 milligrams. And you don't even have to ingest it. Just holding it can be lethal.
Right. And I guess because of that, that's why Narcan is so needed now.
Absolutely.
In schools, I guess law enforcement, they carry it with them now. Probably schools, I would imagine they have it available if it's needed. So, yeah, that's just it's a terrible thing.
Yes,
that's out there. I want to shift gears a little bit. You are a pastor.
I am.
Tell me about that. Like, how does that work out for you?
Well, I spent 25 years as a youth minister, and I loved working with the youth. I saw a lot of the problems they were going through, and loved ministering there. And then I transitioned into pastoring a church. I did that for about 10 years. Then God kind of spoke to me and said, I got another direction for you. I saw the ad in the paper for this public relations person at ADAC. I didn't even know what ADAC stood for. I had to look it up. And when I found out it was for the Alcohol and Drug Awareness Council, I thought, hey, that sounds like something I can be a part of. And so I applied. I was probably the only applicant. But once I got the job and I started working there, and the people I began working with, not only that work at ADAC, but the clients as well, in my mind, it's just like, these are my people. This is somebody that I can really reach out to. That's where my heart's at, compassion for them. So I have a ministry that it's for people that are recovering, and those who have not yet entered recovery, and we're just going to be loving and patient with them and try to help them through. It's a long journey. Recovery is a lifetime. You don't just do it for a year and go, I'm done. And so that's kind of the path that God has put me on, to walk with them on these journeys. It's not always easy. Recovery is not easy. But it's just rewarding for me.
Are you currently pastoring a church?
Well, yes. And we meet up at ADAC. And it's just a Bible study group. We get together on Sundays and have Bible study and pray together and try to work through our problems together. And we just have a wonderful time. And also, while you're mentioning it, I also teach DWI classes. And I think of everything I do, teaching the DWI class is my favorite.
Why is that?
Well, I have them for 15 classes. And so we get to not just talk about drinking and driving, but why we use substances. And it's just so wonderful seeing the light bulbs go off in their heads. It's always, every class, I usually have one or two that sit in the back. I've even had one stood up and cussed me out and turned her chair around, faced the back wall. I don't want to be here and all that. Well, by the end of the course, she's like my best friend writing me notes, and she says, can we keep doing this? And so it's when you see those changes in their lives like that make it so rewarding.
So the DWI class who's that through? Like how?
Through the state.
Okay, through the state. Are these people, are they taking this class voluntarily, or are they being made to do it?
Yeah, it's usually ordered by probation or court.
Okay. All right. But I'm glad to hear that some people, even if they're attending reluctantly, they wind up kind of turning around.
Most of them, if not all, or have a change of attitude near the end of the course. And it's just beautiful to see because we're addressing issues within themselves. Why did I choose that? Mm-hmm. You know, an example I give is like we'll just use the term addict. Why do you keep putting your hand on the hot stove? As a kid, you put your hand on there, you burn your hand. I'm not going to do that again.
Right.
But for some reason, an addict keeps putting their hand back on that hot stove and using the substance. They're burning, they're hurting, they're destroying themselves, but they can't seem to understand why they can't stop. And so we begin to address those issues. What's really motivating you? Mm-hmm. Because their minds are programmed, this is how I'm going to cope with my pain. And physical pain, emotional pain, social pain, whatever it is, this is where they turn to. And so it's just poor choices at coping with these things. And part of the problem, pain is natural. Everybody suffers pain. You go work out in the gym and your muscles hurt. That's expected. But what happens for like the addict, they add to the pain their suffering. That's that emotional stuff they throw on there, such as shame, guilt, embarrassment, all those type of things. That causes the suffering, which leads you back to the substance so that you can mask it and justify it and say, this helps me deal with my emotional pain.
Yeah. All right. Kim Bartel, thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you for letting me be here.
Kim Bartel, Regional Alliance Coordinator for the Alcohol and Drug Awareness Council. If you have any questions about what we discussed today, you can always email us at conversations@fccet.com. And I also like to close out every show by reminding people of our 24-hour hotline if you feel like you need the services of the Family Crisis Center. We do have a toll-free hotline. That number is 1-800-828-7233. Remember, be the voice. If not for you, for someone else.